Now, Brandon, apart from running this rather awesome podcast on marketing, your other claim to fame was you spent 17 years, I think this is right, working for the man in the advertising space.
Yeah, that's right. 17 years in a traditional ad agency corporation, working on top Fortune 100 companies like Walmart, Coca-Cola, Wells Fargo. You name it, I've done most of the advertising programs for these big companies out there. And these days now I'm working with businesses one-on-one to do the same thing.
Okay, good job. The reason, he's tall, isn't he? But I'm 6 foot and I feel short here. The thing that I wanted to talk to you about, a lot of my clients, a lot of the dentists out there, it's quite often that they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, what about a billboard? What about radio? What about TV, etc., etc.? And you were telling me that what you do now, and part of your background was actually really sort of looking at the pros and cons of each of those for different businesses. Tell us, let's start with radio, because that's one that I get asked about a bit.
No, I bet. Honestly, the first thing I tell most businesses off the bat, because I work with some restaurants and people that have, like, their physical location is where their business.
Like a dentist.
Like a dentist.
Yeah.
And a lot of them ask about billboards and ask about radio. And the first thing I say is, if you don't have multiple locations, it's not for you, because there is a scale to the cost of it making it worth your time.
Right.
If you're buying radio for a market, typically you're covering a really wide geography, and the cost for that ad is not going to be worth it unless you have multiple locations. And you have to do the math on that to figure out where that break even is, but radio is not going to be the thing for you. Billboards is pretty much the same. It's pretty high cost, depending on the billboard you're talking about. And the production cost is actually the bigger barrier a lot of the time. The cost to produce physical creative for a billboard on the street is pretty expensive. So when weighing these things, I tend to avoid billboards and radio, especially if you have just one location, especially, because they're just too high out of pocket. I think it's possible, but you have to look at the geography. I mean, a smaller town, it still could be worth it, but none of it's going to be as efficient as the Facebook ads. First, when you're talking about like where to go with your money, the starting points tend to be your Facebook ads, your Google ads, your email, and starting from there. And if you're looking for a boost, sure, you can get on a show and do an interview or that kind of thing, or have someone endorse you. But I worry about the payout on that. So you have to look at the costs compared to what else you can do. And I think that's what people forget. It's not just, is this efficient? Is what else can you do with those same dollars?
Right.
Is the efficiency there? Is it going to pan out? And I don't think it always does with things like radio and outdoor. Outdoor, I'd say the exception tends to be when you have a location that you're like, people do make an impulse decision to get off the freeway and make a turn towards your location, and you're off the beaten path. Then sure, it might make one location might make sense for your business, but that's not going to be the case usually for a dentist.
Not really, unless you've got a whole bunch of people with nagging toothaches that sort of suddenly need to turn over. Yeah, okay, interesting. So for the other thing, I know that you did a lot of stuff in retail, and for most dentists, retail is kind of there for completeness. I mean, let's face it, a dentist is not a retail location. Nobody gets their shopping trolley at the door and sort of walks in and loads up with stuff. And yet the reality is that dentists can add a few percentage to their bottom line with not a lot of effort in doing some retail. So give you some thoughts there.
Yeah, I think if you want to build extra products into your service offering, that's great. Anything you can do to add to your basket size, if you will, is good. But you have to figure out how you're going to package that. How are you going to sell that? It's not going to be something you can promote outside of the office that's going to bring people into your door saying, hey, we sell...
Very unlikely.
Yeah, you don't say, hey, we sell toothpaste. Suddenly I want to go to the dentist. It's not going to happen. So when you're there, when you're physically at the location, you have to do things with your signage in-house. It's really probably inexpensive. I don't want to say cheap.
Yeah.
Inexpensive to just build the right billboards that would, like the signage that you might want to be selling your products to get the attention of the people that would actually buy them. I mean, maybe it's something with a cute picture that gets the kids' attention. Yeah, Mom, I want that. Or it gets the parents' attention. But yeah, your only outlet really is in store. What can you do to get the attention of that to get people to want to buy it? And then you got to figure out how you can sell that.
One thing that I notice that a lot of dentists don't do is they don't put prices on stuff, and in my view, in a retail setting, that's a mistake because there are a group of people potentially sitting there thinking about an item and then they go, oh, I'm not going to ask because I might get embarrassed. You know, I might say, how much for the electric toothbrush, or there's those water flosses, which are kind of cool, you know. Even for dental, they're kind of cool, but if there's no price on them, I would say half the people sitting there are just not going to ask.
Yeah, and I think beyond that, I think you can think of pricing as a tool. Like, how do you use pricing to incentivize people to be excited about wanting to purchase something? So you can show this is the cost, and it's on sale this week for a certain price,
right.
Or there's some kind of discount. Whatever the thing is, price gives the person the tools they need to make the decision. Is this worth it or not for me?
Right.
And just not having to make a trip, that extra trip to the grocery store to buy the flavor that their kid fell in love with at the dentist,
right.
It might be worth paying $4 for a tube of toothpaste instead of $3.
Right.
That's okay, but if you don't show the price, they don't have the tool they need to make the decision on yes or no for the purchase. You have to give them everything they need to know.
And the other thing we talked about as we wrap up was you're talking about a way to try and either bundle some stuff together, maybe integrate it with other services.
Well, I think the idea is everything, when you sell it one-on-one, you start to think, how does this compare to the other one thing that I would buy? You know, toothpaste is just toothpaste.
Yeah.
It's pretty much commoditized. There's like two brands you think of when you buy
sorry,
toothpaste.
dentist. I know you think one toothpaste is very different from another. Your consumers don't. They think it's all the same.
They're going to say Crest Colgate. That's all they think about.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll buy it.
McLean's in Australia, not too much Crest.
There you go.
But certainly Colgate.
And, and beyond that, they look, does it have something that says whitening? Because that's topical at the time.
Right.
But if you want to differentiate, and especially if you're in an office and you're trying to sell it, what you can do is figure out what can you add value on top of that makes it more interesting. Maybe it's, hey, with this we also sell, this is our bundled package for kids that says, here's a flavor and a book on how to brush appropriately that makes it fun for the kids, and maybe some videos that they could do, sing along with that makes it fun. You have to come up with a way to make it more valuable as opposed to making it cheaper and just discounting.
Right, absolutely. Awesome. Hey, Brandon, thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you.